It's your boy Brainsy. Welcome to day 79 of Workout Grind. Today's going to be chest day, and um, I'm just gonna change this one. Today is a special day. It's Monday, start of the new week, and 2 days to go before my sisters come back here, and I'm no longer gonna be alone. So I'm gonna have to make use of the time that I have left here. Anyways, I'm gonna do some whitening strips. I already did some energy drinks and multivitamins, and I'm already finished with work. So right now I'm just gonna finish working out, and then I'm gonna do some random shit. I'm also gonna be trying to be uploading weekly vlogs now. I don't know how sustainable that is, but I'll try my best to like document doing that. So keep an eye. Oof. What else? Yeah, that's pretty much it. Gonna do some this now. No more water. That's all right. Today is now 4 p.m. by the way. It's late in the afternoon. I was planning to wake up early. I did wake up early, but I did a lot of other things. I admit, slower than I uh like it to be. But it's something. Oh fuck, I almost sent out a wrong package. Oh shit. Fuck. Oops. Okay. I let's do it. What? RDL. Holy shit! 2 in a row! Glazing. Glazer. Dick Rider. Sorry, bro. Sorry, bro. No, that's such a for legal reasons.
Always going to be obstacles. There's always going to be challenges. There's always going to be moments of like, I don't know if I can do this. But if your why is so strong, it's like, I don't care what comes up in front of me. I'm going to get it done. Like most people, they want to be motivated. And I have come to hate the word motivation because motivation's so fleeting. Like we can wake up and we can listen to a podcast where we can get, read something and be motivated. And then something can happen to us and it's gone. It just disappears. What I want to be is I want to be driven. Like when you see a driven person, like you see it in their eyes, like, yeah, they're not stopping. And the difference between a motivated person and a driven person is that the driven person has this why that they want to see have happen in the world or in their life or for their family. And so I think if people are like, I want to accomplish this goal, the very next question is why? And then go why, and go deeper into it. An example I give in the book is I had a coaching client years ago, like 8-9 years ago. And he was like, Rob, I want to make $100,000 this year. I've never made it. And I was like, why? And I took him through what's called 7 levels of why. Just keep asking why. And it went from, I want to make $100,000 this year because I've never done it before, to the eventual thing was he had just got into a divorce a couple years ago. Both of his young children lived in a bad part of town with his ex-wife. He wanted to regain custody because he was afraid that both of his children would be killed in a drive-by. And he was so terrified of it that was his actual true why. And so it wasn't the motivation. I didn't have to talk to him and say, hey, how close you'd make $100,000 this year? I said, hey, how close are you to providing more safety for your children this year? Because he wanted them to move in with him. He wanted to be able to provide for them and to make sure that they were safe. And so I think that if we just ask ourselves, why do I truly want to accomplish this goal? It kind of reveals itself and it makes it a lot easier to take the action.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and I appreciate all the kind words, but I can definitely say the only thing that's kept me going is my why, because I think there are so many things that either make you want to give up or slow down or become lazy or complacent. And when I look at it, and someone asked me this, I was sitting with another creator end of last year, and he was just like to me, Jay, why do you even do anything anymore? Like, what's the point? Like, it seems like you're good. Like, why do you need to do anything? And I was like, we've just got to the start of everything. Like, I just got to the beginning of where I need to be. I was like, we've just got to a point where we can connect with lots of people, but we need to give people the step-by-step process to transform their life. And now we can take them on the journey because people are listening, they're engaged, we have a community, we have a connection with people. But when I started out, we didn't have any of that. So I see it as we just got to the start of where I want to be, because, and it was just interesting to me that so many people struggle to find their why. And I think it's because no one's, and you just said your coach helped you do it. It was the same with me. My art teacher from age 11 to age 18, he was my art teacher at school. And every time I'd paint something or draw something or do a collage or a graphic design, and whatever I do, the first question he'd ask me is, why did you do it? And I'd be like, my initial response is because it looks good. Like that, I was a kid, what do I know? And he'd be like, every year he'd be like, why did you do it? And I'd be like, oh, because this color matches with this color. And then be like, why do you do it? And I'm like, oh, because it reveals the metaphor that I think this is about. And then he'd be like, why did you do it? And I'm like, because that's how I'm feeling right now. I'm trying to, and every year he would ask me, it would reveal more and more layers of my psyche in a similar way. And again, I've owed it to someone in my life who pushed me to ask the question why, same as you. And so I think what we're both saying is, please ask that question to yourself. But what if someone asks that question and they feel stuck and they kind of go, I've asked it, but it's kind of just like, just want a nice house. Like, I just want a nice car. I just kind of want to, it's not that deep. And I think you're right. Like you said, we don't have a lot of primal fears. Like some people who are listening right now will have fears of survival, and that is driving them, and they are working hard and they are pushing. And at the same time, we'll have people who are like driven, but they're like, I'm not driven enough because I haven't got anything to be that scared about or that worried about. How do that person discover their why?
Yeah, I think for me, it's like my life was never terrible. Or, like when I started
Agreed, yeah.
when I started the
Same.
podcast, The Mindset Mentor, like I was at a point in my life where I was making a whole bunch of money, and I was 27 years old, and I was making 250 grand a year, and I was working from home, and everything was great. But I felt like I was slowly withering away, and I could see what the future was going to be while I was there. And I said, okay, if I do this for another 5 years and I'm 32 years old and I'm still doing this, or I have my manager's job, is that going to fulfill me? And it actually gave me more anxiety to think about having my manager's job. And then I sat there and I thought, okay, well, like, I really want to do this podcasting thing. It seems to be going pretty well. I want to coach people. I want to help people. And I also at the same time was like starting an Amazon business and trying to make money online and do that. And so I thought about it and I asked myself, okay, if I fast forward 5 years from today, do I want to be the person that's in sales management like I'm doing now and consulting? Do I want to be the guy that's selling stuff on Amazon and, incredible Amazon business person? Or do I want to be the guy that's coaching people and helping people change their lives? And the immediate answer was very clear: coaching people and changing their lives. And I was like, okay, well, that feels like it's the path. And then immediately comes up is all kinds of fear, because I don't know what I'm doing. Like back in the day, 2015, nobody made any money in podcasts. I didn't have any idea of how to grow a business, any of that type of stuff. But what was important to me was, number one, when I fast forwarded into the futures that I didn't want seemed way more painful than trying the unknown and what could be if I did take the path. And so that became more of a fear, like the fear of judgment, the fear of putting myself out there, other people's opinions. It was there. It's still there. And I don't know if you ever get past it, but you just kind of get more used to it. But the fear of being in the exact same position, working the same job, maybe making a little bit more money, doing this for every day until the day I die, was terrifying for me. That was a fear. And I was like, well, then this path of the unknown isn't as scary. And so I might as well take this path of the unknown. And I'll be fully transparent. There was, I shared this on like one other time, I think. There was a moment in 2015 where I started the podcast in August of 2015. November of 2015, I was feeling like a whole lot of fear. And I was like, I might have to go back and work for someone else again. And it was just, fear was so in my head. And I was like, I got to go back to making money. I got a new house. I got a mortgage. I don't know how I'm going to do this. I'm not making any money doing this. My sister came out to me, and I believe, if you're silent, the messages are always there. If you're looking, the messages are always there. My sister, I was at her house, and she goes, hey, have you ever seen this box of Dad's stuff? And I was like, no. And she brought up, my father was an alcoholic. He passed away when I was 15 from his alcoholism. And she brought out this box, and it was like his glasses. It was a t-shirt of his. It was his watch. And the other things were a bunch of letters. My dad was in jail for a little while for multiple DUIs, and they put him in jail, and he would write letters to us. And he wrote a letter to my sister on her 19th birthday. And I was reading this, 2015. So he would have wrote it to her in 1999. And the very last line was, I hope you live your life with courage, love, and laughter. And I read it, and it was like the universe warped. And I was like, oh, he wrote this for me. Like there was a moment where I was like, he wrote this to my sister, but the universe is giving me this message through my dad because I need to hear this right now. Because I'm in so much fear. And the very first line is courage. Live your life with courage, love, and laughter. And I was like, I got to commit. Like this has to be the thing. I've got to make a decision. And when you look at the root word of decision, it's decadere, which means to cut off. I'm going to cut off all other options. I'd heard like Will Smith say, there's no reason to have plan B because it distracts from plan A. Like it's got to be the thing. And I was like, oh my God, I got to commit to this thing. I can't have any more feelings of like, I'm going to go back to working for someone else. Like this is my life path. I'm either going to succeed at it or I'm going to die trying. And I was like, I don't know what to do. I was like, I'm going to get this tattooed on my arm. So I literally have live your life with courage, love, and laughter tattooed on my arm. My very first tattoo I ever got. But it was like, for me, people always think like, when you make a decision, the fear disappears. Like, I wish that I could do these things, but it's like, it's always there. But you've got to learn that like the fear is always going to be there. But my bigger fear is getting to the end of my life and having not done this, having not tried to help people, like being in the room with my father after he passed away when I was 15 years old and realizing, because he was the first person I ever met that passed away, I'm going to be there one day. And I saw it. I was like, oh yeah, he was a dreamer and he was an amazing person, but he didn't do what he wanted to do. I am not going to live that life. I'm going to create what I want to create. And now I have all of the other fears that everyone else has, but my biggest fear is getting to the end of my life and not having tried or not having at least gone for it.
Yeah, that's I love hearing that, and you've reminded me of a great speech that Jim Carrey gave, funnily enough. And he talked about how his dad, I believe his dad, and I could be getting this wrong, but he said that his dad was an accountant
Mhm.
and he did that to be safe. And he said that when he was young, his dad got made redundant from his safe job.
Right.
Jim Carrey said that in life, you are probably going to fail at something you don't love.
Mm.
So you might as well try something you do love.
Right.
Like this idea that I'm choosing the safe option, or I'm choosing something that my parents thought my family wanted, or I'm choosing something I think is secure, even that's unstable and uncertain. And so the uncertainty that you pursue actually is less fearful
Yeah.
because you're on top of it, you're aware. And I think that's one of the biggest habits that I think's changed my life, is that I stopped believing and accepting that I would get to a place where I no longer had to use my brain.
Mm.
Right? Like, I think we all believe subconsciously somewhere that there's a paycheck, there's a bank balance, there's a home, there's a fashion, there's a partner. That means from that point on, I don't have to think about anything.
It's all good. Everything's
because
perfect.
It's all good.
Right.
And I'd say my best habit in life is recognizing that that is the biggest myth that we've been sold, and I just don't accept it. And I'm okay that my life requires constant work ethic and effort and awareness and being astute and being conscious, because that is what's actually being demanded by this world. A uncertain world forces you to be conscious.
Yeah.
But if you're unconscious in an uncertain world, that's leading to a really dangerous place.
Sure.
But I think we're waiting for that moment where we can just not be conscious because it's so much hard work. But to your point, it's way harder work being unconscious.
Oh, yeah.
Because the amount of unconscious issues that arise are numerous.
I think there's like a lot of wisdom in what you said, because a lot of people would rather just be like, well, let me get to this destination. Once I'm there, everything becomes better.
Hey, I want that too.
I do too. Right. And I thought that for a long time. And it's interesting. The journey that I've had is, I always wanted to make money because I thought money was going to give me what I needed. It would give me that safety and security that I never felt as a child. And then I got to a goal that I wanted to get to, and I realized I feel exactly the same as I've always felt. I don't feel any different. I don't feel any more secure. I don't feel any happier. I don't feel any more loved. And what I realized was I thought that the achievement, the recognition from other people, the money in my bank account, the buying cool stuff would fill what I actually thought was, and consciously now know, is I thought that all of those things would fill a void that was inside of me. And what I realized is what I was searching for from the external world is actually what I was searching for myself. And so the reason why I spend so much time in silence nowadays, I'll just go out on my porch and I'll just sit there for a couple hours, is because I'm trying to fill the void that I have created through life and through patterns and through heartbreaks and through all of the things that happened in my childhood. And I'm trying to be there as the 38-year-old man for the 9-year-old boy that's still healing. And what I've realized is that none of the material things, anything externally, will ever give me what I was ever searching for. Everything I've always searched for in the external was what I've been searching for myself. And so I 100% agree with you. I don't think there's any destination we ever get to. I think I'm constantly going to overcome more things every single day. And if I live to 100, I would be so lucky. And it's another 62 more years. I don't expect that I'm going to get to the end of my life and be like, I figured it out. I think the beautiful thing part about it is I think that I was given this need for achievement to realize that it doesn't change anything, because the path of wanting to achieve and doing it through business and doing it through growing and all that stuff has actually lit up inside of me a spiritual journey that wouldn't have been there had I not wanted to go for those things.
Yeah, absolutely. I heard this. You reminded me of this story that's told about Benjamin Franklin. And Benjamin Franklin had 13 virtues. And these were all qualities that he aspired to develop in his life: simplicity, authenticity, patience, things like that. And when he was on his deathbed, they asked him which one he didn't accomplish.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it was the 13th one. And they said, what was that? And he said, humility. And I love that, because I think what you're saying is humility doesn't mean you're meek or weak. It means I'm able to accept there's always more to learn. I don't know everything.
Yeah.
And it's okay. I'm going to give myself grace for it too. It isn't a feeling of I'm useless because I don't know. It's actually I'll become more useful if I recognize there are things that I still have to learn. And when I'm listening to you about your spiritual journey and that silence, I'm intrigued by that. Walk us through how you fill that void almost practice wise,
Mhm.
because I identify with that fully. And it's funny because we always talked about how our lives were kind of opposite.
Yeah.
Because when I met you, I'd kind of gone down this deep spiritual path,
Right.
but I had no money.
Yeah.
And you were in the other boat where you had sustained yourself financially and created a really good, stable place for yourself, but you were seeking spiritually. And so we were kind of at,
right.
We had that
Yeah, yeah.
conversation.
Yeah,
if I'm
we
not,
did.
yeah. And let's talk about that too. But I'm intrigued as to how does that couple of hours or whatever that time on your porch, like, how do you do that for people? Because I think we like the sound of that, but then we get distracted by the next
Yeah.
thing.
What I've come to find, and I can speak within myself and just what I've seen from other people, but what I've seen within myself is that I've learned a lot of lessons from my dad. Most of them after his death and me processing things. My father was the way that he was, and he became an alcoholic because he had things in his past that he hadn't worked through. And the thing that he hadn't worked through is when he was 12 years old, my father heard a gunshot. He walked into the room and his dad had just shot himself in the mouth with a shotgun. And so my dad grew up in rural Tennessee. This is 1960s when this happened, 1960s when this happened. There wasn't a whole lot for him to understand it. There weren't podcasts, there weren't books to read like we have nowadays. And so I always consciously knew that what was happening was that he had not healed his pain. And Gabor Mate says, don't ask why the trauma, ask why the pain. And when I first heard Gabor Mate, I was like, oh my God, someone's finally saying what I always thought with my father. And so, we can look at him and say, oh yeah, he's an alcoholic and he didn't overcome his trauma. The trauma, the way it came up in my life is I became a workaholic. And so I didn't, sometimes we could see someone and say, oh, they drink too much alcohol, they do too much drugs, they eat too much food. And we can say, oh yeah, that's their addiction. The problem and the hard thing in our society is that my addiction of workaholic is rewarded. And people look up to it and they're like, you're doing so great. You're making so much money. All of this is so good. And what I came to find is that my workaholism was just basically me trying to not feel my feelings and to not work through and process those things. Like scrolling on social media could be that way for somebody. It could be, some people are addicted to working out. Some people are addicted to, watching TV and there's so many, some people are addicted to shopping. There's so many different addictions that we have. And what I found is that the hardest thing for me was to stop and to just not have to. I was always trying to fill every single moment of my day, always try to be so busy.
Shit.
When I didn't have something to do, I'd find something to do in my business. Businesses, you can always work all day, every day. And so what I've tried to do and I've built in my business is a lot of systems and processes through my VP of operations has really helped me with this a ton, to be able to take a lot of stuff off my plate so that I have more time to just be. It's my personal belief that I think that God, the universe, life, whatever it is, speaks in silence. And so if I want those messages, I need to be silent. And what I found for myself is when I would be silent, a lot of anxiety would come up. And I'd be like, you got to go to the next thing. You got to go to the next thing. This is stupid. You should be doing something else. And then I just realized that what I was trying to do was achieve to fill a void. But I could sit here, and there's been moments where I'll sit on my porch and I'll literally just start crying. And I'm like, sometimes it's gratitude. Oh my God, I can't believe I've been given this life. I can't believe I've had these challenges. I can't believe that I've had this come up. I'm so grateful for every single aspect of it. And sometimes I just sit there and tear up and I'm like, I don't know what this is, but this is something my body's releasing. And I need to be okay with this releasing process. There's a really interesting thing that people could look at. There's two videos that are really interesting on YouTube. One of them is called Polar Bear Trauma, where they show a video of a polar bear and they shoot it with a tranquilizer gun from a helicopter. They chase it down with a helicopter, really heightened experience. They shoot it with a tranquilizer gun, so it's still awake, but it's not, completely out. And it starts having a convulsion, starts seizuring. And eventually after its seizures, what it's doing is it's releasing all of the cortisol, all of the adrenaline from its body so that there's no trauma that comes with it. And so then it goes, after it's shaken for a while, takes a really deep breath and it just kind of calms down. Almost identical video of a impala that gets attacked by a jaguar and the jaguar gets scared off. It starts to convulse, takes a deep breath, and then it moves it. And we're taught in our lives at some point in time not to remove this and to work through these traumas and these feelings. I think children naturally do it through like temper tantrums. They move it. And sometimes as adults, we either need to have like an adult temper tantrum in safety, where you just take a pillow and you can be angry, you can be mad, you can just scream, you can cuss, you can smash it against the bed, whatever it is in safety by yourself without other people around so you don't scare them as well. And then sometimes it's also just like sitting there in silence and realizing that what is coming is going. It's like when you squeeze an orange, what's inside of it, orange juice, because that's what's in it, right? When you sit there and you put pressure on yourself or you give yourself space, what's coming out is actually what's inside, and your body's natural intelligence is trying to let go of it. And so for me, that's what I found, is that there's some moments where I'm just like incredibly grateful. There's some moments where by doing nothing, Jay, I get so much anxiety and I'm like, what is this? Why? And instead of running from it, I get curious. And I think if we could just get more curious, like I've been reading a whole lot of Krishnamurti recently. I love Krishnamurti. And one thing he says is don't know yourself, because knowing is based in the past and the past is based off of memories. Start learning yourself, which is in the present moment. So be present and be like, what comes up? How can I be curious about this anxious feeling or these tears or whatever it is? And just be in the space to just know yourself, or get to know yourself a little bit better.
Yeah, it's so great. I mean, talking about that goes to me back to what we were talking about at the start of it. You were saying how this idea of, well, what if the worst thing happens? What if the best thing happens? And we were talking about this idea of Jim Carrey, and you were saying that there's this experience of, well, I lost who Jim Carrey was. And what we've both talked about is we are so much of what our thoughts are. And therefore, if you change the thoughts completely, you're almost a completely different human.
Sure.
So then who are we?
Right.
Comes back to this know thyself versus learning of thyself. Like, what has that spiritual journey taken you on to understanding identity?
I mean, God, Jay, that's like as deep as it could go. That I'm just, I am just a soul that chose this life. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to think that I chose this life, and that immediately takes me from being a victim in my life. Oh, woe was me. My father was this way. He did this to me. My mom did this to me. And my teachers acted this way, versus me going like, I think my soul chose this life because this is whatever is needed for this path that it's on, for, whether it's reincarnation or whether it's heaven or hell or whatever it is that comes after this. I don't know, but I do know, like right now, I do have this life as Rob Dial. And as I get older, the thing I realize is that my body changes. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm a lot more sore than I used to be. Like my body's changing, but my soul is this thing that is just always there. And so the thing that I've come to realize is that I want to, I don't know if it's going to sound weird, like I want to unattach myself from this body, from everything around me, and I want to try to connect back to what's internally inside of me. And the one thing that I find is that never changes. Like that, there's like a truth that's behind that, and truth is the thing that never changes. If something changes or if something can be questioned, it's not true. But there's this feeling that feels like truth inside of me, at least, and everybody has their own truth. But for me, my truth is the thing that's behind all of it. And the more that I connect to it, the more peace that I have. Like I listen to a lot of Ram Dass, and one of the things that he said, I was listening to him on the drive over here, and I listen to his meditation every day, is the only work that you have to do is the connection to your own heart. And so I'm always constantly thinking, what's in the way of my own heart? What material possessions, what things that I want to get are in the way of that? And the reason why I think that it helps is, number one, I've had so much more peace from trying to connect to that. And my relationship with my wife has been so much better because of it, because I'm not blocking her from letting her in. She's experiencing me fully. She starts to be able to open up even more in different ways. I'd be able to experience her more fully. And so for me, it's just like connecting to the thing that's behind it that feels like the only thing that's truth. Now, mind you, if Rob 15 years ago had heard this, he would be like, what the hell is that guy talking about? It would make no sense. But on this journey, I've just kind of realized that there's something behind it all. And I want to try to connect to that something behind it all and see what it is. And so for me, it's like, I like to use myself as a guinea pig. Everything I teach in the Mindset Mentor and the podcast is all stuff that I'm trying within myself. And I I use it as almost my own therapy sessions where I'm talking to everybody, but I'm talking to myself. I'm reminding myself of all these things. And what I realized is I realized that after 15, 19 years of personal development, it's like, you know, personal development's like this cup right here. And I feel like my cup in personal development was overflowing. And then I found spiritual development and I realized, oh my God, it's a lot bigger cup. And it's not even close to being full. Like it's a bucket and it's my next thing that I'm working on. So for me, it's like the mindset, the working through, like I'm constantly working on this and trying to get better. But for me, it's like, I want to connect to myself and see what else is in there.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you for sharing that. I mean, you made me remember a C.S. Lewis statement that says, you don't have a soul, you are the soul, and you have a body.
Yeah.
And I remember I used to have that written on a little post-it note, and I used to look at it every day first thing in the morning, because I was thinking about this concept of identity, that the first thing 99% of us do when we wake up first thing in the morning is we look in the mirror. Usually we say something like, oh, I look tired, or don't like that spot, or God, I put on weight, God, whatever it is, right? Now, all of a sudden, we're already in the bodily concept of life, this bodily consciousness. And now you live your whole day thinking about the body. What does the body need? The body needs food, etc. And so, and that's natural. Like, that's not unnatural. That's normal. Like, I do that too. But then you're saying that at the same time, you've got to nurture and nourish and connect with this deeper sense. How do you balance the two in a real world where you have responsibilities, you have bills, you have things to do that are connected to the body?
And of the world at the same time, where it's like the soul is here, and as I'm speaking to you, everything that I say is also something that I struggle with every single day. I have not mastered this process.
Me too.
There'll be times where I find myself just so in the world and I'm just like stressed. There's things happening. There's this business where there's all of this, you know, we've got employees, we're hiring people, there's stuff happening. And then I back and I'm like, it's just like kind of like a game. Like, take a second. Like, it's all real. I'm not saying it's not true. It's not reality. It's not in front of you. It's all there. But behind it all, if I can connect to like a deeper sense that's within me and in the soul that I feel is in there, I'm like, hey man, chill out for a second. Like, it's really not that big of a deal, right? Most things, you know, there are more, do all of this stuff in the external world. But when I find myself kind of take a step back and kind of be in my heart.
Idea of simultaneously one and different. And it sounds complex, but it's actually not. It's this idea that this feels real and it can be real and it is real, and at the certain detachment, disconnection, but also a recognition of the significance of what you do, reality. So rather than this feeling of everything's one, everything's the same, or it's disconnected, there's real and fake, back to which thought has value, the collective thought of my life is significant and insignificant is the most helpful thought.
Oh my
because
God, it's so good.
Thinking I'm significant and insignificant are both unhelpful thoughts.
And a lot of us have lost it. And I lost it for years. And so how can I make the creativity flow out of me in some sort of way and just allow the space for it to happen? And one of the things that happens, and it's not necessarily my goal of it, but when I sit in silence, I get ideas that come through and I'm like, oh man, I don't know how I didn't see this. And that's where they all are. So it's like a lot of times we're trying to force things to happen. We're trying to force creativity, trying to force ideas. But sometimes when I get there, I'm like, oh man, yeah, this is the thing I've been searching for. And it's just, I think every person just needs to give themselves just a little bit more space to not be on their phone, to not be constantly, you know, and a lot of people have children, their children are up. Can you wake up a little bit earlier, not be on your phone, and just sit in silence and see what comes up? And I think that it's really important for people because what you'll notice is exactly what you're saying, which is what we do, like this life is so important, but it is very insignificant, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. Like I love watching videos on YouTube about how small the earth is compared to the rest of the universe. And it stresses my wife out. She's like, I'm going to have a panic attack. Why do you watch this? Because I was like, I like to remind myself that even though it's all happening and I'm in it, none of it actually truly matters.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Absolutely. And I think when I'm listening to you, there's this feeling that, you know, I feel like I agree with you. I think everyone is a creator. I do believe that creativity flows when we connect with that. But I think sometimes we feel so distracted from it.
Yeah.
And it's so much easier to pull out our phone. It's so much easier to put on a show in the background. It's so much easier to do all of these. It's so much easier to do all those things at the same time.
Yeah.
Like now we're no longer ever with
the process. And I think that it comes back to like, why are you doing it? What do you want? If you're trying to disconnect from your phone, why? You know, like for me, like I recently deleted Instagram from my phone. I did it last year for a month, felt like it was amazing. The book came out and I was like, I got to get back on. I got to promote. I got to make sure things are good. I recently just deleted it again. And now everything that I post, everything flows through my team. So it's not like it's just gone. It's just now I just happen to flow, everything flows through my team. Why did I do that though? Was because that I'm trying to let go of and trying to work with. And so for me, I think what's important to people is like, if you want to make a change, why do you want to make the change? And for me, looking at a screen is not as important as actually physically being in front of my wife and giving her what she actually truly deserves, which is 100% of my attention. Because there's been times where I've not given her 100% of my attention. And as we start to have kids and stuff, I don't want to be a distracted parent. I want to be with them. I'll never sit there and go, well, when my kids were kids, you know, my kids were children, like I wish I would have spent more time on Instagram. I wish I would have spent more time watching Netflix. I just think for me, like the level of the place I'm at in my life is I want to be as present as possible because I've worked for things
it gives you clarity, it gives you perspective, you can zoom out, you can zoom in.
It's just the food just goes through the ghost. It doesn't go anywhere. And what we're actually searching for is what we're searching, that love and acceptance for ourselves. And one of the biggest things that I think I've learned in probably the past 2 years is I was all still works together. You know, when I was writing my book, I was sitting there and I was going so hardcore. Like you and I come from the world doing viral videos. I would spend so much use that egoic side of me to actually help me create a better book. And I could. And so what I realized is instead of hating that aspect, it's like a tool in my tool belt. When I need to bring that side of me out, I can bring that side of me out and say, you know what? I'm going to create the best freaking book that I can, or the best podcast that I can, or the best reel that I can to try to impact people. And so it's not about like trying to force
starts to be purified. And so that resonates very strongly. Great answer. The other one I wanted to ask you was, what's a lesson you had to learn the hard way?
Yeah, I think the one that's been the most potent for a long time is you can't do it all on your own. For me, I don't think I was able to trust people for a very long time. You know, I went to a therapist one time and he had said, yeah, you've been neglected. And I was like, no, I haven't been neglected. Like I had food, water, shelter, clothing, all these things. And he's like, no, you were emotionally neglected from your father. And I was like, oh my God, I that really like rings true. But what happened was I had developed this feeling over my lifetime of I've got to do it alone. I can't trust it.
About how the word is anartha, which means unwanted thing that seems unwanted, actually needs to be engaged. Like you need to engage it in the service of doing something higher for it to be purified.
That's
like
awesome.
You can't just cut it out. You can't just get rid of it. You can't just hate it.
Done everything by myself. And then I started looking around me and I was like, no, I haven't. The universe has always, and then I started looking around me and I was like, no, I haven't. The universe has always been there, giving me everything that I need and every person to help me in some sort of way improve and get better. Everything that I need and every person to help me in some sort of way improve and get better. And, you know, for her to be like, yeah, let me hold space for you. Let's talk it out. And so I think the biggest thing for me is learning that I can't do it all on my own. It's okay to, it's actually strength to ask for help. It's strong to ask for help. And, strength to ask for help. It's strong to ask for help. And that I need to be better at asking for help when I do need it.
That's a great one. And I can relate to it in so many ways. And yeah, it strikes a chord for sure. Yeah, you can explain it.
Everything is your fault comes back to like you are the CEO of your life. My very first mentor that I had, I paid $500 a month to have my first coach when I was 19, about to turn 20. And we worked together for 2 years and we had some great calls. I don't remember any of them. I remember one. Love, the happiness, the abundance, everything that you wanted. Whose fault would that be? And I said, it'd be my fault. And he said, the problem with you is you're treating this life as if you're the victim. And what you need to realize that everything that happens to you is your fault and that your life won't change until you decide that you want to be the CEO of your life.
I don't know how that would have felt when you heard it at that point.
It hurt. Uncle Dan, who was an incredibly successful guy, had a bunch of success, but also is incredibly giving, always so loving. And he never blamed anybody else for when his business failed and he brought it back from nothing and rebuilt it. He never blamed anybody else. He was always there for everyone else, but he always took I'm proud of you. I try to tell myself that every single day. My mom told me that a lot as a kid. I'm trying to repeat it to myself.
I love that. That's a great one. Question number 4, the number one habit that changed your life, like a daily habit, like something that you practice.
Meditation and breath work. Finding space for myself.
Love it. 5th and final question. If you could create one law that everyone in the world had to follow, what would it be?
Oh my God.
Take your time.
One law that everybody in the world has to follow: to take 5 minutes every single day to practice self-awareness. I think that every problem in this world could be solved if people were more self-aware. I think that all of our problems come from lack of self-awareness. And if people were more aware of our actions, if politicians were more aware of their actions and how it's affecting the entire world, and if parents were aware of how their actions are affecting their children, and as a son, if I'm aware of how my actions are affecting my mom, my sister, my wife, everybody around me, if we could take 5 minutes to practice being more self-aware, I think that the entire world would be better.
I love that. To start moving on from the past.
Everything in nature grows only where it's vulnerable. So a tree doesn't grow where it's hard and thick, does it? It grows where it's soft and green and vulnerable.